Well, the legislation, when you take it as a whole, it's looking at multiple aspects of how to address alcohol harm. That's from pricing, or through the minimum unit pricing, through advertising, through restrictions on where we can see it, through availability, that it should be closed off from certain, in shops. And a very important part of it would be around the content of advertisements, not just restrictions on where you see it, but actually what's in it. So what we've started today with are 3 parts of that legislation, but we have an awful long way to go. And I think the thing for us that is so important is that it is fully and comprehensively introduced, that all parts of it work coherently together. It's not just about a bit here and a bit there, it's about the whole of it.
Well, of course, today is a very momentous day. It's the first occasion where we see sections of the Act being implemented in relation to advertising. And I know that the Minister Harris and the government are deeply committed to getting the rest of the Act implemented. I'm looking forward to that. But we mustn't take our foot off the pedal, really. The Act is one step. We now need to look at developing a wider conversation on alcohol harm in society, and I think the fact that this strategic plan was launched today, Leading Change, a Society Free from Alcohol Harm, which is 2020 to 2024, one of the most important suggestions and actions that I see proposed here is the establishment of a cross-party committee in the Oireachtas to examine alcohol harm, and I think that's something that all of the political parties should be encouraged to put in their manifesto, as we do have a general election coming up next year.
I think the Irish legislation is really a model for anyone who's looking to effectively reduce alcohol harm in their population. So the approach has very closely followed best practice from the World Health Organization, what we've seen as the best evidence base we have. So I think that the Irish legislature and the civil servants who are involved in this have really done a very good job in Ireland. So the legislation, I think, could scarcely be bettered. You have all the elements there, including the best buys of price, of availability, of marketing. Some of those have been taken forward, some are being introduced today, and that's great to see.
The significance of the legislation that we're seeing implemented today is that it demonstrates that change can happen, that change does happen when people deliberate on what's needed, work out together how best to do it, and then get through the political system and bring it out the other side. It's our law, it's the law of the land. That's how things should work in a democracy. And I think that people can be frustrated very often about how slow change is sometimes, but this today demonstrates that all of the work is worth it. And it also gives people, I think, the strength to know that they can take these ideas and these plans and these objectives further into the future, conscious of the opposition that's there, because there is very, very strong and robust and very well-funded opposition in the industry to public health legislation in the area of alcohol.
I think it's really important that Ireland has been able to come through the battle that you've had to fight to get this onto the statute books. There's been so much opposition, but you've actually done it, and now you've got the first phase entering into force. And Ireland is really showing other EU countries that it can be done, that we don't need to be afraid of taking these steps, that even if it's tough to get it through Parliament, you can do it. And it's great that we've got a really solid example to point to. From my perspective as a public health advocate working at EU level.